Federal Executive Council moves to boost power supply, approves new policy for distribution networks.
Presidency reacts to Christian Association of Nigeria press conference, says there is no violation of the Constitution under the Buhari administration.
House of Representatives to investigate alleged payment of subsidy of petroleum products by NNPC.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the role of political leaders in forging national unity.
Now, from independence till date, Nigeria's journey to nationhood has continued to be a work in progress. A progress that many describe as very slow. Some others have even argued that the country appears to be stagnated or retrogressing.
Now, in specific terms, those voices and the opinions that have been expressed often will refer to the issue of national unity and cohesion among the nation's diverse ethno-religious groups. This, of course, remains a topical subject among Nigerians and those who follow the nation's development and history.
Indeed, Kingsley, you're right. The truth is that successive administrations, conferences, reports, even constitutional reforms have attempted to forge national unity amongst Nigeria. How successful these efforts have been is a question that is still begging for answers.
Now, perhaps one way, Rhoda, to ascertain Nigeria's unity rating is to take a look today at the level of hate speech circulating in the polity. There is also the tendency for bigotry among some Nigerians and the issue of selective justice and impunity, riding, of course, on the disregard for the rule of law. Plus, what we now know as the massive looting of the Commonwealth. And then add to all of that is suboptimal availability of basic amenities. Plus, again, continuous agitation against the state.
You're right, Kingsley, and the truth is that these are issues that have in recent times not only increased the call for national unity, but have left many asking questions what role the political leadership can play in ensuring that Nigeria's unity is built in line with the vision of its founding fathers.
Now, for the political elites to foster national unity, it is argued they must possess qualities such as capacity, integrity, commitment, and vision. Now, this is, of course, in addition to a collective focus on discipline by the elite that stresses nation building.
Now, how does the political leadership emerge in Nigeria? What is the recruitment process? How does the governance structure allow or deter them from uniting Nigerians?
Very important questions we've just raised, Rhoda. And then one might also add how the citizens come into the picture, because in a democratic setting, citizens have a role in not only electing the political leadership, but also holding them accountable.
These are some of the questions we shall be posing to our guests. These are the issues we'll be dealing with this morning as we interact with some political leaders on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rhoda Anonam.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola, also welcoming you to the program, coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we shall also present our regular complimentary segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment. Now, we're taking off now with the news highlights, and here is Miriam Akpata. Hi, Miriam. Good morning.
Good morning, Rhoda and Kingsley. Here is the news. Far-reaching measures have been taken by the federal government towards ensuring that all the power generated through the various policy initiatives are injected into the national grid for distribution to consumers across the country. This followed the approval of a new policy framework for critical investment aimed at enhancing the capacity of the existing distribution networks by Federal Executive Council. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, announced this while briefing journalists after the council's meeting this Wednesday, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
International trending just for the procurement of the equipment, the lines and all of the accessories that are necessary to build out those networks is to just accelerate action to ensure that the 2,000 megawatt that is available now gets to the grid and gets to the people, because more power is coming. We're expecting many more power plants to complete this year, which will add almost about 1,600 more megawatt to the grid, to the production this year.
The presidency says there are no cases of any violation of the Constitution and there will be none under President Muhammadu Buhari. In a statement reacting to reports of a press conference by General Secretary of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Dr. Musa Asake, the presidency says Dr. Asake could not cite valid cases of constitutional violations and President Buhari's government poses no threat to the country's democracy and constitution. It advises the respected religious leader to stick to his religious duties and leave politics for politicians. Safety of lives and property once again topped proceedings at Wednesday's Senate plenary. This time, however, the focus was on the security challenges in Taraba State. Lively deliberations were ignited over the killing of a state legislator and the ongoing fuel crisis in the country, following presentation of the interim report of the Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream.
Security, the issue of security is everybody's concern.
Senate will direct NEMA as a matter of urgency to intervene.
Okay, those in favor of the additional prayers moved and seconded say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Still from the National Assembly, the recent scarcity of petroleum products in some states across the country has brought up some issues, especially regarding the cost of importing petrol into Nigeria. Authorities have said that the landing cost of fuel is more than the approved 145 naira per price per litre. Therefore, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the source of payment for the difference.
And the Group Managing Director of NNPC should appear before the Committee of the House.
We'll look at constitutionally is whether NNPC can knock off this subsidy from monies standing to the credit of the Federation without express legislative approval.
The House Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values has urged the federal government to make more funds available to the Nigerian Television Authority to ensure adequate execution of its developmental projects captured in the 2017 budget. This was during the oversight of the committee to agencies under its purview in Abuja.
To appeal for the release of more funds from the 2018 Appropriation Act for the upgrade and replacement of obsolete equipment, effective coverage of government programs to promote national consciousness and facilitate content acquisition and staff training.
We are spending about 6 billion on recurrent and only 600 million for the capital project. For God's sake, only 300 million was released. What kind of development are we talking about here?
Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has met with Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onoge, to prepare grounds for the 2019 general election.
In a recent leadership crisis in one political party, the Commission was served 6 conflicting judgments and orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction within a period of 3 months.
But we see the beauty of the whole system, which you should be reminded of, is that the system has a way of correcting itself. That is why you have the appellate system.
While it has been reported in Adamawa State that efforts are on to curtail the scourge of hepatitis, the people of Abakaliki in Ebonyi are not so lucky, as there is another outbreak of Lassa fever. Already, 2 medical doctors and a nurse have reportedly lost their lives to the disease at the Federal Teaching Hospital, Abakaliki. Chika Okure, who visited the Valodje Center where the afflicted are managed, simply described the situation as pathetic. But all hope is not lost, as the state government has come to the rescue.
So treating any affected person free, because treatment is also very expensive, and the doctors have also been sensitized to have high index of suspicion, because part of the problem we had was late presentation.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Rhoda and Kingsley after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime, we bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Does it mean you are in paid employment if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend?
A boyfriend that cannot put his girlfriend on a weekly or monthly allowance. Is that one a boyfriend?
Is a relationship a job and you must get paid?
I might be needing like 20 to 25K.
I transferred 15,000 naira for you some days ago.
Your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, takes a detailed look at this trend in this episode titled Meal Tickets.
In our days, we enjoyed courtly love, not cupboard love.
Exactly.
Now you keep quiet, young man.
An episode that comically explodes the myths and misconceptions surrounding relationships and defines the employers as well as the employees in this unusual job situation.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow,
the largest data network. Glow Unlimited. Sit-up Supreme Noodles, capturing the tasty goodness. It's the Sit-up Supreme Chicken Essence that gives it the truly delicious chicken taste. With real chicken essence. Be Supreme Nigeria.
What makes a Naija mom powerful?
I encourage my kids to learn new things. And if they get hurt, I rely on the power of my Dettol's 1 capful to fight germs.
My family needs protection from germs. I use the power of Dettol's 1 capful to disinfect surfaces and clothes.
I trust the power of Dettol's 1 capful for bathing. The power of Dettol's 1 capful protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Be a powerful Naija mom with Dettol. Be 100% sure.
Use Dettol Skin Jelly, which protects against germs for a healthy, smooth skin every day.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
All right, now time for us to take some business stories. As the federal government has released 1.2 trillion naira for capital projects, and the equities market maintains the two-day gaining streak. Details of these stories we get from our correspondent Kolo Muhammad.
Hello and thank you for joining us on Business News. The federal government has released a total of 1.2 trillion naira to finance capital projects in the 2017 Appropriation Act. Given that the 2017 budget was only finalized in July of 2017, the disbursement of 1.2 trillion naira over a short period of 6 months to capital project is a strong and positive development in Nigeria. The release of such a large amount for capital project is a strong demonstration of the commitment of the present administration to prioritize improvement in infrastructure in order to stimulate growth and development. In line with its statutory mandate of funding the federal budgets, the Debt Management Office raised a total of 1.245 trillion from domestic market through the issuance of federal government of Nigeria bonds, the Nigerian Treasury bills, as well as sukuk and green bonds. This amount was consistent with the provision for new borrowing in the 2017 Appropriation Act. The Debt Management Office also raised $2.8 billion in the international capital market through a $300 million diaspora bond in June of 2017 and 2.5 billion euro bond in November of 2017, which together represents about 80% of the 1.0675 trillion provided as new external borrowing in the 2017 Appropriation Act. The outstanding amount of $700 million in external borrowing is expected from multilateral sources. And for the 11th time, the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, slowed down, bringing the current figure to 15.37% as against 15.90% recorded in November of 2017. A cut of 0.53% resulted in the current disinflation. This means a slowdown in inflation rate, even though still positive year-on-year. The urban inflation rate declined to 15.78% year-on-year in December from 16.27% in November, while the rural inflation rate also eased to 15.02% in December from 15.59% in November. And finally, the equities market extends two-day gaining streak by 1.89% as sentiment remains positive. Let's now see a graphic summary of Wednesday's trading. That's business news for this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues in just a moment. Many thanks for your time.
Kolo Muhammad there for us on Business News. Time now for us to take a look at the dailies and get to see what stories made it on the front pages of some of the dailies we have this morning.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebe, is right here for today's review session. Bayo, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, brother. And good morning, Nigeria.
We have a potpourri of stories on the front pages of the papers that we have this morning. But of course, some of them are follow-up stories, as Saful said in the newsroom. So there are matters arising. So let's begin with you, Rhoda.
And most of them, as you said, they're follow-up stories on security. And let's begin with the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun has its headline. It says, Herdsmen, bombers kill 16 in Benue and Borno. That's a story that's on page 6, 4 and 10 of the Daily Sun, with 2 riders there, 2 policemen killed, 2 Canadians abducted in Kaduna. That's the lead story for the Daily Sun. Let's quickly move to the Punch. The Punch says, herdsmen destroy ex-naval chief's farm. Taraba rejects cattle colony. That's on page 7 of the Punch, and that's the lead story. It has 2 riders there. It says 4 more killed in Benue, says Orton. Senator holds summit on killings next week. All right, Kingsley.
All right, the story on the Benue killings is also the lead for the Authority newspaper. Okay. Because it comes with a kicker, Benue killings. Police arrest 54, and Ohanese youth give killer herdsmen quit notice, and reps want mobile policemen in border communities. That's the lead story for that. And then for the Leadership newspaper is lead is as follows, again coming with a kicker. Northern Elders Forum. Paul Unongo steps down as chairman, and new convener will be appointed soon. Details of that story can be found on page 6. But of course, there are 2 other headlines on the front page of Leadership, so let me just take those ones accordingly. Now, also there on the front page of Leadership newspaper, beside the photograph, it says APC under pressure to hold convention. And then going to this spot below the name flag of the Leadership, House of Reps finally passes PIGB. That's the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, also popularly known as the PIB. And on Bondo's NNPC. With another story, federal government to boost national grid with 2,000 megawatts. That's on page 4. Now, the lead story for Blueprint newspaper, coming with a kicker, 2017 fuel importation. NNPC marketers duped Nigeria of 784 billion naira. That's according to the Senate. And Buhari can end killings by herdsmen if it's a claim by Serap. That's on page 6.
From the human interest story. Unfortunately, security challenges have gone on ascendancy. 4 expatriates, 3 Germans and 1 Canadian, have been abducted. This was between Jere and Kagarku Road. This is adjacent to the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. Unfortunately, they had police escorts, a sergeant and a corporal, who engaged the criminals. Unfortunately, they killed the 2 policemen, and they have abducted the 4 expatriates. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Police Command says they are on their trail, and they hope to rescue those abducted alive. Meanwhile, there are other security challenges. After suicide bombing has been stemmed for a while, 2 suicide bombers went on a sprawl yesterday at Alai Fada Market. 12 persons have been unfortunately killed, and those injured, as yesterday was 48, as by this morning has increased to about 65. Government, again on the prowl, suspected to be herdsmen, killing 4, 2 women in Guma, another 2 in Loku. And in across to Ekiti State, a place called Okeako in Ekiti, a herdsman was killed by what has been described as settlers suspected to be from Benue. Meanwhile, there's been some considerable success too by the police. 54 persons have been arrested in Benue so far about the herdsmen killing. And in Okwila, the Edo State Police Command have arrested 3 suspects. You recall that some days ago it was reported that there was an explosion in a place very near Okwila, where the police swung there and they have arrested 2 men and 1 other female. They were said to be operating an improvised device factory where they were manufacturing arms. In fact,
that's the photograph of the arrest and display of the facilities that they were using, or the ingredients they were using for the IED. That's what you have on the screen right now from Blueprint newspaper.
Yes. Well, coming to the alarm raised by the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, they say that they have discovered what is described as federal government and Nigeria being duped by the NNPC and marketers. And what they found was that a total of about 5.9 billion liters of petrol have been shortchanged for the year 2017, and this ought to have brought amounted to 784 billion naira. And how did this come about? According to the interim report, they said NNPC is supposed to import about 30 cargoes per day, and that is about 30 metric tons of petrol. And this, in a total, amounts to about 1,206 billion liters liters of petrol. And for this overhang lasted for about 35 days. And on in the same vein, marketers got sum of about 1,669,180,000 to import petrol at an exchange rate of 305 naira. However, they now ought to have supplied Nigeria for petrol for 109 days. So this is the shortfall that the Senate committee found out. However, the subject of subsidy was raised, and the chairman for the committee said subsidy was not part of the agenda. The National Assembly has asked its committee on public accounts to investigate what is described as a dupe.
All right, Bayo, let's take a look at other stories very, very quickly. Let's return to the Daily Sun just beside the nameplate. It says foreign militias have infiltrated Nigeria, says a senator. Foreign militias have infiltrated Nigeria. Let's go to the foot of the paper. There are a couple of stories at the foot of the paper there, but I'll just take two of them. It says EFCC arraigns ex-Nasarawa governor's son judge over alleged fraud and bribery. That's on page 12. On page 2 and 9, that's the story Bayo was just talking about now. National Assembly probes 1.084 trillion naira illegal fuel subsidy. Rep summon Kachuku Baro and PPPRA boss. Let's go to the Punch. On the Punch, just above the nameplate there, I'll just take one of the, that's on page 12. The stories on page says, Constitution Amendment tops agenda as governors meet in Abuja. It's a story that's trending on page 12 of the Punch. And let's go to the foot of the paper. It says 4 suicide bombers hit Borno, killed 10 and injured 65. And finally on page 10, it says doctors protest with coughing as Jute sacks 668. That's a story that's trending on page 10 of the Punch. All right, Kingsley.
Not much. Let's just take a few headlines from Blueprint Bio. These headlines are below the nameplate of Blueprint. Saraki's CCT acquittal. Federal government asks Supreme Court to restore 18 counts. And then also there, PDP senators stop colleague from defecting to APC. That story is inside. And breastfeeding for 6 months reduces diabetes risk. That's according to a study, and the story can be found on page 17. Tenure allegation, elongation. APC governors shun National Working Committee's consultative meeting. That's on page 8. Bio.
Breastfeeding for 6 months reduces the risk of diabetes in children.
In children.
Yes, please.
So that it says breastfeeding for 6 months reduces diabetes risk
in children.
Well, that's the headline. The headline has to be short.
Well, the story is on power now. Nigeria is generating 7,000 megawatts, but we are only able to transmit 5,000 megawatts. So the federal government yesterday from the Federal Executive Council, Minister of Power, Works and Housing indicated that because it has some percentage shares in distribution, it is going to empower the distribution so that this power can be evacuated and transmitted to homes. So
all right, thank you, Bayo. That's an issue that we've taken on this program. The issues of GENCOs and DISCOs. All right, thank you very much, Bayo, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria today. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. God willing. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be back for our discussion for today. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back in just a moment.
The whole team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs, which are everywhere. You collect germs that cause diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands and taking your bath with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash your hands. What you have to do is bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash your hands.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Straight A's mean better days. On those days I worry, my mind's so blurry. Studied every chapter, still can't find the answer. Always is the answer with its comfortable top layer and reliable protection with Super Gel. No stain, no chat. I know I'll get straight A's. Straight A's mean better days. Our future starts today. Happy always.
Now for only 150 naira, get the new Always Pocket Money Pack.
Sore throats, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like you're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in one lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
The time has come for Nigeria to take her rightful place in world sports with the first national grassroots sports festival to discover and prepare sport talent and develop future world champions for Nigeria. The festival date is 3rd to 10th March 2018. Venue is the National Stadium, Abuja, packages A and B. This is the opportunity for you to promote your brand through the festival. For broadcast sponsorship, which include live broadcasts, highlight shows, and TV fans show, contact the Chairman, Chief Coordinator, Angelo Peter I. Elosia, or Nick Oyinshi. Organizers, Grassroots International Sports Academy and LOP Worldwide Television. Endorsed by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. Broadcast partner, NTA.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. Every day, 16,000 children under the ages of 5 and thousands of adults die from infectious diseases. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily. In unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilet, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 Cap Full for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure. Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As we indicated from the beginning, we are today discussing the role of political leaders in fostering national unity. Now, as a background for our discussion this morning, let's take this report from our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf.
It is generally agreed that the rise and fall of every nation hangs on the type of leadership it has. This saying plays out in Nigeria when one considers the huge potential of the country and its inability to properly harness it for the good of the citizens. Among other things that have remained elusive is the issue of national unity and stability. Since independence in 1960, Nigeria has thrown up several leaders both under military and civilian administrations that appear to have lacked the capacity to forge national unity and bring out the best of Nigeria's diversity. The nation today continues to be divided along ethnic, religious and regional lines, thereby promoting agitations, corruption, nepotism, greed, intolerance, violence and mistrust among Nigerians. In all of this, deficit in political leadership is seen as a major factor that is making the attainment of national unity difficult. This is because only visionary leaders with integrity can promote stability, peace, good governance and other ingredients that enhance national unity. The process of recruiting leaders in Nigeria over the years is also called to question as some politicians exhibit scandalous desperation for power, where they rig elections, loot the public treasury, operate with impunity, and undermine the rule of law that continues to push the nation to the brink. Little wonder Nigeria continues to face worsening security situation with violent killings, armed robbery, politically motivated assassinations, massive youth unemployment and poverty. The lack of requisite leadership also appears to have left the citizens confused on the question of national unity, as they seem to be gullible to selfish interest of the political class, who use them to fan the embers of hatred, division and violence. This therefore calls to question the situation where people without any political capital are elected into public offices and end up impoverishing the society. Nigeria is no doubt at a difficult time where national unity is most required to sustain the nation and meet the aspirations of the citizens. Perhaps the questions begging for answers are Nigerians unwilling to coexist in peace and unity? What is the responsibility of the political class in ensuring that Nigeria's unity is achieved? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria are set to answer this and more.
Thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. And focus this morning is on political leadership and national unity. We have guests here in Abuja and, of course, other studios across the country. But it is with great delight that we welcome to our studios this morning the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Simon Bako Lalong. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
You're welcome. And also with us here in our Abuja studios is the former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Dr. Chris Akumas. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, and Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, as Rhoda indicated, we have two other guests who will be joining us. First, from our Sokoto Network Center, we have the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese. You can see him there on the right side of the screen, Matthew Hassan Kuka. Bishop Kuka, pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Kingsley.
And then also from Meduguri Studios, we have Dr. Bulama Male Gubio, his secretary, Borno Elders Forum. Dr. Gubio, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, let's begin with Governor Lalong. And the truth is that the quest for unity in Nigeria, the quest for unity is as old as the country itself. But then it appears that it has been quite difficult for us to attain this unity that we've been talking about. What could be responsible for this?
Well, first of all, let me look at it first from the foundation, the Constitution. The Constitution provides that the business or the function of government is to provide security. The function of government is to provide, to secure the lives and properties of citizens, and of course, secondly, to provide welfare. Now, these are primary functions of government. And under this cover, you will have different kind of leadership. The first one we had was military leadership. And under the military leadership was that of control. You understand, for military leadership, that will be under their own type of leadership is is command and control. But in democratic leadership, for political leadership, it requires commitment and trust. Commitment and trust. And so when you talk about commitment and trust, now the unity of the nation is very, very paramount. Now, when you see some breaches of unity, it's either there is no fairness, there is no equity, or there is no justice. But when you rule with this, you carry the people along. The people who trust the leader who is committed to some of these things I mentioned, where there is unity, where there is justice, where there is fairness, and where there is equity. From history of Nigeria, we've had challenges. We've had challenges, and of course, the problem of the challenges has always been on two twin evils, and I call it twin evils. That is that of ethnicity, ethnicity and religion. And so this aspect must be handled. If handled well, we will not have disunity, or the unity of the nation will not be threatened. You also know that I don't think, from my reading of history of nations, great nations, I have not seen any nation that has achieved greatness without unity. Until you are united, you can't achieve greatness. We have history of them. Here in this country, we also have our challenges, to the point where, at one point, we went into a civil war. But our diversity is our strength in this country. Our diversity remains our strength. So no matter the challenges, and I'm sure if we observe the tenet of democracy, definitely we'll always summon the challenges that we have.
All right, Governor Lalong, thank you very much. We'll come back to you. Let's pause. You've introduced a very crucial element into the conversation, that when we talk about political leadership, there is a sense in which, of course, we mustn't forget where we are coming from. Democracy, it's barely 19 years old. That's the 34th Republic. We've had years of military rule. So they're all encompassed in it when we're talking about national leadership. The former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Dr. Chris Akumas, the consequences that we see today in terms of strains on the nation's unity, some persons argue, arise from the fact that there has been no sufficient hunger for the issues that conduce to national unity by the country's leadership. What's your take on this?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. I want to say that part of our problems stem from the fact that we abandoned the roadmap that we tried to lay for ourselves. When, after the colonization and independence came in, we did not achieve independence by just quarreling with the Northerner, the Southerner, the Muslim, and the Christian. No. We achieved that by talking to ourselves, agreeing on points, and looking at our strengths. Then as things happened, midway, that was truncated. And since after the military, period, that took us some effort before we got back into the democratic system, we've left that part of having that respect for one another. And we seem to believe that the perception, in your family or in a family, somebody from outside can sow a seed of discord. And if you continue to forget your own family values, forget your strengths, and look at those things that hold you together more, and dwell on those things introduced to you to divide your family, you continue to grow apart. And that is what has been happening, because we've worked more on those issues that divide us than those that bring us together. We have continued to project the perception of outsiders more than the perception of ourselves. If you look at us as a country, yes, there's a country, but is there really a nation, that zeal to have that nation that we all dream about and desire. Not yet, because of the utterances that come out of most of our leaders. And what you say, your body language, your attitude has a lot to do with followers. And when followers misconstrue what you are saying to mean something else, then these problems come to play. And effectively, the political leadership must have the will to ensure fairness, just like he said, fairness, justice, and equity. Even where you think that that is not what you personally want, be objective and be fair to all. That is what is, causing all the problems. And
all right,
I think we should
thank you very much, Dr. Akomas. Let's go to Sokoto, where we have your lordship, Bishop Kuka. Bishop Kuka, for some people, Nigeria's unity is a mirage. For some people, it is a work in progress. I'd like to know from your perspective what you think about it.
Thank you very much. And let me first of all make the point, I think it's something we need to reflect about. Does a united people produce a leader, or does a leader have the ability or capacity or responsibility to produce a united people? Leadership is also about destination, which suggests that, for you to claim to be a leader, you must have an understanding of the destination clearer than the people that you are supposed to be leading. And I'm not making just an intellectual point. It's not about textbook knowledge. It's about the fact that a leader has to have the capacity to have a vision, which the ordinary people do not see. And it is the process of articulating that vision and canvassing the wishes of ordinary people that they can see that vision and decide to follow. These are the aggregate things that make for what you call unity. Now, even armed robbers have a purpose, and they have a sense of unity because they have an objective. What has happened in Nigeria, tragically, is that we've never been able to have the leadership with the requisite understanding of the landscape and understanding of the people of Nigeria. We've never had the leadership that really even pretends to understand the geography, the sociology, the culture, and the peoples of this country. So the British did a far better job than our political elite have done. And you can see that that also explains the nature of the success of the colonial project. Now, if you talk about whether unity is a mirage, it is a mirage because the absence of the clarity of vision by the leaders suggests that people are gradually just finding their way. And if you fast forward to the predicament that we find ourselves in now, there is a unity of takers in different directions. First of all, this is not a nation that is living under one flag. Most communities now have their own flags. This is not a nation that has one single national anthem. Most communities in this country have their own anthems. And they're more passionate. Most people, we have a central army that draws a salary, but most communities have their own militias. So the aggregate of issues that you require to put in place for people to aspire to unity, the architecture is not there. And His Excellency made the point about military rule. I think that because we've not been able to address the corrosive nature of the legacy of the military, we have failed to understand why is it that this country is neither democratizing nor developing. We have failed to understand the reason why this country is moving far backward than forward. That what we have are hardly what we have as political parties in Nigeria can never pass the test of political parties anywhere in the world. Most of the people who are holding office in Nigeria, from the president to the last local government chairman or to the councillor, have moved from one political association or party to the other. So you have a bunch of people who are following a third road. Where it leads to, nobody knows. So this lack of vision is also what accounts for the fact that those who lead us and have no clear idea of where the destination is. And this is why this country continues to remain in a state of convulsion.
Kuka, thank you very much for your initial salvo. Again, we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Let's go over now to Maiduguri, where Dr. Bulama Gubio is, Secretary Borno Elders Forum. Dr. Gubio, let's get your take as an initial remark with regard to Nigeria's unity and apparent failure of political leadership in truly forging that.
Thank you very much. First, let me view the whole program in another perspective. I think this program is to profile solutions as to how leaders, political leaders, are going to forge unity in the country. We cannot afford to waste time enumerating our problems. We have to profile solutions, guide our leaders to forge unity in this country. Leadership is a divine responsibility. Leadership is a burden, a great burden, bestowed by Almighty God on whom He chooses. Our political leaders should know what to say and what not to say. Before we came to be a nation as a Nigeria, our forefathers, our founding fathers knew our differences. We were people from various empires, kingdoms, city-states, autonomous communities, several nations brought together. They knew it, and they knew the differences. They knew that we were tribes and religions. But because of their quest for unity, their quest for progress, their quest for brotherhood, they agreed to form a single nation. At that time, they would have insisted on going their separate ways, and the British couldn't have enforced a Nigeria on them. But they decided to be a Nigeria. Then what followed next is the problem. Let me not sounding too religious, let me say, today, when we say Muhammad, every Muslim says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, may peace be upon him. Muhammad was a leader. All the things he said and did and accepted were recorded. Not a single of his sayings, thousands of them, was objected to by anybody up to this moment, and it will not be objected to up to the end of time. Because he was a leader. He guarded his utterances. He monitored his own movements. And people respected him, listened to him, and they were guided. Today, he is a guide to billions of people, not because of any political power or any wealth, but because of what he did as a leader. So our leaders should learn from our religious leaders. We have our Bible, we have our Quran, the Hadith, and all religious norms and tenets. We are people of religion, but we never learn from our religion. We never learn from what is happening around us. We never learn from history. Everybody is just trying to be on his own. All these things we are talking about, unity not feasible, it's not like that. Go to any market in Nigeria, any market. See Nigerians transacting their business. All tribes or religions are there. They are just like one people. Then it boils down to the leaders who are not guiding the people right, who are making statements which are not supposed to be made by statesmen. And a leader should not say things that will misguide the society. A leader should not attack another leader. For example, we have 36 governors. No governor should utter a word against another governor. We have a president. The president is the father, the leader of the country. Whether he is doing good or bad, we only need to guide him. We need to advise him. We don't need to attack him. We don't need to say things that the common people will take as real and then deviate from loyalty, from obedience, from doing the right things. When people observe that their leaders are not united, when people observe that their leaders are not honest with them, then they also go their own way because they become lawless. Otherwise, it is very, very easy to forge unity in this country. If our forefathers were able to bring all these empires, kingdoms, cities under one roof, who are we to say that we are now going to dismantle them? Why are we attacking one another? Why are we fighting one another? What are we looking for? Every state of Nigeria have their own leadership. They have their own resources. They have their own allocations. What is the marginalization all about? What is this non-accommodation all about? It is the educated ones, the leaders who are making noise about marginalization. Look, somebody who has been a leader for decades in this country is still looking for leadership. And if he cannot get it, then he has to spoil it. That is not responsible enough. We need to be responsible. We need to be men of religion. We need to be men of decorum. We need to imbibe our social values, our tenets. Every community, no matter where they are from, they have their ethics, they have their do's and don'ts, and everybody grows up learning about these don'ts, and all of them aggregate to one thing: be a good person, be a productive person.
All right, thank you very much, Mali Gubiu there from our Maiduguri Network Center. Thank you for your introductory speech there. But then as the program goes on, we actually look at unguarded statements by, our political leaders. But then let's get back to Governor Lalong. Now, let's look at how the political class has been able to manage the diversity, especially in unifying the country, as regards to your experience in Plateau State.
Thank you very much. First, I must say that before I became governor, I had the advantage of being the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House for about 7 years. I was going to complete my tenure until I was forced out of office. That one is history. And then while I was the Speaker of the House, I was also studying the situations in Plateau State. Okay. Plateau had a problem, of course, like any other state. And Plateau had crisis, like any other state. And before that, commissions were set up, headed by eminent jurists, made recommendations, and each time recommendations come, no implementation, or when they are implemented, no, it doesn't serve the purpose. Now, while I was there, I was studying all of them. Now, when I didn't know, of course, I didn't know that I was one day going to be the governor of the state. So immediately, when I became governor, I inherited a crisis in the state that was going on, I inherited a state that was almost down, no payment of salaries, civil servants were moving, 11 months, pensioners everywhere. So it was a very serious tax. I inherited a state that was completely not united, disunited, on the basis of religion, on the basis of ethnicity. So what I did was to find a way of addressing, to pick which one would start first. And what I did was, I now went back to looking up not on the tribunals, setting up commission, but to adopt a traditional method. And that traditional method was to engage the people. First, the crisis at that time. Now, when we went into the crisis, I moved the people. I called the warring factions, and they came together, and I said, set a roadmap for the peace. I want you to set a roadmap. Mine is to monitor the implementation. Now, they brought out 21 items for themselves, and that was between Biroms and the Fulanis, because it was now farmers and headsmen. And when they brought up the 21, I said, okay, you will implement them yourself. So mine was to monitor the implementation, and they did. That was how we achieved peace. And because of that, we used all the NGOs, international and national, that were there. They were all there, but were not engaged. And so I moved all the NGOs in the state and brought them together to help me. And at the end of the day, when we saw this moving and peace was getting restored, what I did was in my state to set up peace building agency by law, which is also standing. Now the Peace Building Agency is now responsible for moving where there are crises. As they move in, the Director General was moved from, I appointed him from the University of Jos. I picked him from the University of Jos. So as we address that issue, which they were doing themselves, and we now went back to the issue of payment of salaries. We now went back to addressing issues that were also the source of the conflict. Most of them inclusiveness. People were talking about lack of accommodation here and there. So what I did was go back. In my first appointment, I made sure that we had 53 ethnic groups in Plateau State, 53 ethnic nationalities, and all of them are accommodated in government today in Plateau State. All of them are accommodated. That was why when I was reacting, some people said I don't like people of Benue. I said in my cabinet today, I have a Benue. I have a chief chap who is in the Judicial Service Commission. So we brought everybody together. By the time we brought everybody together, everybody saw a sense of belonging. Now we move to development. All the development in certain areas in the past, the administration will say, no, we don't like this area. So no development, no road. What I did was to balance development, developments everywhere. So because of that, we now still went back to some of the reports of the judicial panels, and some of them we picked some that were relevant to us in these present circumstances, and some that were not relevant to us. We didn't bother about them. So as it is now, in my state, if you move there, you won't find who is a Yoruba man, you won't find who is a Hausa man, you won't find who is a Fulani man, you won't find who is an Edo man. There is that unity. There is that unity. And that was why I mentioned that. One thing very cardinal is that if they see it in the leader, that you are also, they see a semblance of trust in the leader, people will follow you. They will follow you without even asking why they are following you. So that was the roadmap that we did. I remember I was invited to the US, and all this concept, they say, how did you achieve peace in your state? I brought them out, and they made recommendations to support what I was doing. Late last year, there was a security summit organized by the National Security Advisor. And now again, they say, look, let's test let's look at the option from Plateau. And I was invited to make a presentation. The presentation I made was that presentation. And because of that, I have seen some governors now establishing peace-building agencies in their states. Because what we are saying is that if you have a crisis, you sort out the crisis, you put judicial commission. That is the end. At the end of the day, where is the implementation? So if you want to have this, and you have to have permanent solution, then you must also establish permanent institutions and develop the institutions. So that tomorrow, you may not be there, but the institutions will be there. Our peace building agency is doing very well. Is doing very well in the state. Many organizations, NGOs, I had to sign 3 peace resolutions. The German ambassador, he said he must come. The US ambassador came. We signed 3 times peace resolutions in Plateau State, and all of them have encouraged the existence of the peace.
How long has this been in existence?
The peace is
your peace agency.
It's now 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
It's over 2 years.
All right, still in its infancy.
Yes.
Governor Lalong, thank you very much. Again, we'll come back to you. Let's bring in again Dr. Akomas, the former Deputy Governor of Abia State. Amongst the many points articulated by Bishop Kuka from our Sokoto Network Center, he talked about the absence or lack of sufficient knowledge of the terrain, the people, geography, indeed the sociology of a territory or an area of jurisdiction being governed by a leader, plus the fact that there appears to be very limited visioning. And if these failures or these inadequacies, in his opinion, would appear to be some of the causative factors that tend to exacerbate issues pertaining to our national unity. What's your comment?
Thank you very much, Kenzie. The point that His Lordship, my Lord Bishop, Bishop Cooker, you know, presented is very key to part of our problems. You know, we've been talking about the 40 recruitment, leadership recruitment process that we have in this country, and part of it being that most times people are, you know, either choosing, selected, or placed in position without looking at their background and pedigree good enough for them. Most times people look at the immediate gains and what will come. And that also points to the fact that His Excellency talked about. We seem to play down on institutional buildings, building strong institutions. And so people come with their narrow or myopic ideas and do the little they can do within the much they can see. And that misleads the crowd. And a lot of people are not looking at tomorrow. They want to play to the gallery now. Let us win some popularity. If we think of how South Africa, you know, came after the apartheid, we thought that Mandela suffered. The reaction would have been, these people punished me, let me also do. And of course, the people would have happily followed that. But he, because as a leader, he saw something better, an opportunity, proper visioning to guide the people for greater. That was why I said from the onset that the attitude of the leader, what the leader says, is very important. A lot of people get into positions of authority without even understanding their immediate environment, not to talk about the, you know, surrounding the other areas. And that plays an important role, because when you understand the other person, you respect his own views, he also respects your opinion. You can present and argue. And that is the point I made, that when we started, people will sit down together and look at their strengths, their weaknesses, and know how best to come together and use it. Individually, we are working well together, because you are either trained in this country. Like me, I have, most of my mentors are from the north. Outside my immediate family, I was more educated in the west too. So you look at the whole thing, you have gone across, you've seen people, and you relate with people individually. You interact, you transact your businesses, no problem. But when it comes to these issues, things that should actually bring us together, people now look at the opportunity. What can I get immediately, and what will? And so it beclouds their sense of reasoning, and that is the problem.
Dr. Akomas, you've been a deputy governor, but the same thing, of course, with the governor here with us. The complaint that we all know about has to do with the recruitment process for our leaders, from local government right up to the highest officers in the land. There have been complaints. How do we break out of the current mode? Because the view is strongly held that you have plutocrats who are the controllers of the levers of power, ultimately deciding, you know, who comes on. And that what we are saying is actually not really democracy, where the people have a voice and a choice.
This, I think, if you talk about having a voice, the people have a voice. Talk about having a choice, they also have a choice. But the problem is, are they able to make this choice happen? Why did I say that? For some reasons, people, even people you least expect, would collect peanuts and, you know, forget that tomorrow is there. They want something now. We heard about what happened in, you know, elections in recent, where people, just for small money, we say, okay, they may have come to the polling unit to vote for someone else. But for small money, they vote for another. And people have tried too, within the political leadership, the religious organizations, the faith-based organizations, to say, if you must collect money, collect the money, but vote your conscience. So that is there, because all these things are about who controls this and that, all has to do with money. That is the values we must change. The orientation must change. The perception must change. People must know that when you are going and following somebody, not for what you believe he can do for the people and the state or the country for tomorrow, including your children and grandchildren, then we miss it. So the major problem here is the people, because the followership is important. The leadership, yes, everybody says you, but you get the kind of leader that you want. Because when you are strong in what you want and the kind of results you expect, we have examples of some states where you can't just, because of money or anything, come in and they will accept the person. We have that. And those states have continued to improve because over time they have seen the benefit of choosing people of character, people of integrity, and these people have also learned to carry everybody along, because that is very key. It's important that the leadership must think of not just themselves, not just the immediate, but tomorrow and the growth of the.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Comas. Let's go to Bishop Kuka in Sokoto. Bishop, it's often said that the quality of leadership in any society is actually reflected on the kind of achievements or the results that it attains. But then that brings me to the question now that Kingsley just raised: our recruitment process. Has our leadership recruitment process in Nigeria been faulty?
Thank you very much. But let me speak to two quick issues. One is the point raised by my friend Dr. Gubio about ascribing a certain level of divinity to leadership. There's absolutely nothing divine in leadership at the political level, especially in our environment, in our rather convoluted environment where people steal their way to power. There's nothing divine about that. The second thing is that, contesting space is critical to democracy. And there's no need pretending that democracy is about obeisance or whatever. We're not looking for holy men and women to govern this country. Holy men and women who have an idea about how to lead should go to the church and become priests, should go to the mosque and become imams. The politicians we're looking for are people who can fix and address the problems of this country. What we have in Nigeria presently, we continue to use the word leadership. I call them office holders. They are not leaders, because a leader has to have an aggregate of interests, beliefs, philosophies, principles, to which ordinary people can sign on to. The holy prophet of Islam that he referred to, people didn't just follow him. He articulated very clearly where he was going. The point is that in Nigeria, we have these problems. And what do? We still stand around and we are looking for people to come and solve our problems. Yes, we're a corrupt country, so let's find out somebody to come and help us fight corruption. Yes, we are a disunited country. Let's come out and find somebody who will help us become united. Now, this politics is built on platforms, all right? The first platform is the platform of political parties. Do we have political parties or anything that comes close to political parties in Nigeria? What is the political history of people who are in office in Nigeria today? There's hardly any leader, any person holding office in Nigeria that has not gone beyond 2, 3, 4, or 5 different political parties and associations. So this total discontinuity suggests that people are looking for vehicles for self-enrichment. The result is what we are getting in Nigeria. We don't have a political class. We don't have political classrooms. So to even suggest that we have a political class begs the question, because if you have a class, you have teachers. So we have a problem. If you're asking how might we make a transition, the point that Kingsley made is that we have plutocracy, not democracy. There's nothing in this country that we're practicing that comes anywhere close to a democracy. Okay, we have the architecture, but they are largely for self-appropriation. Because for us to have a democracy, you require political discipline, which is closely tied to political leadership. We are going to play in the World Cup. I think nobody is in doubt about the fact that Iheanacho is going to play, Mikel Obi is going to be our captain, Igalo is going to play. There are certain things we already know. But in the Nigerian political system, who is going to be the governor tomorrow, we don't know. We rely on the governor to tell us whom he wants to anoint. Who is going to be the president tomorrow? Well, we are waiting for the president to tell us who is he going to anoint. So this is what has overburdened the system. And the total rejection of intellectual input suggests that somehow our politics is about holding offices. And this is why when we talk about political leadership has to feed, there has to be a convergence between political interests, civil society organizations, research institutions, the academia, the private sector, and so on. But in Nigeria, what we have is the political class or the state is the domain of privilege. So a president or a governor, if he wants, they're only just presiding over a distribution agency. So the critical question is that we need to address two things. First, we continue to agonize. Why are we not like Asia? Asia didn't go through a military regime. None of the countries in Asia went through military regimes in the sense in which Nigeria did. Now, it seems pretty clear to me that going forward by 2019, and we're already in politics, the problem we're now going to have is that if, as Dr. Akomas said, ordinary voters have been disempowered. Why have they been disempowered? I just got something last night on my phone suggesting that over 34,000 people have lost their jobs in Kaduna, for example. Now, if people are losing their jobs, where are they going to get the energy to be able to contest the space? Okay? If you have a situation, for example, where we are so visibly living in blood day in and day out, how are our leaders hoping to climb over the dead bodies of our people, to seek political office? And I have said severally, achieving national cohesion is a science, it's a philosophy. But unless we define the sense of national cohesion, unless we figure out how we can become united in this country, and that unity has to be based on a clear articulation of a vision that takes in everybody. Some of the vital ingredients of democracy, constitutionalism, for example. What is the state of our constitution? Okay? You have things that arouse people's emotions, like national anthems, for example. The British composed their national anthem in 1745. They've not changed the anthem. The Americans composed their national anthem in 1814. They've not changed the anthem. The people of South Africa have a national, a national anthem. It combines 5 different languages to accept the plurality of that country. So the point I'm making is that we are failing on almost every index. We are failing on almost every institution that you require to create a democratic society. Our populations are growing. Our people are increasingly impoverished. Nigeria has never been as divided as it is now. And I fear and I shudder, and it's beyond prayers, that if we do not very quickly get our act together, I don't know whether and how we're going to have an election in 2019 with the situation being the way it is today. So, frankly, I preach hope, I market hope, and as I said, and I've said severally, the hope of the Christian church is never in recession. But I think the political class needs to wake up to the fact that we have to have a country before we can have a political class. We have to have a country before we can have a political class. So I think there is a certain kind of urgency. And I don't know whether the politicians will be more obsessed with getting into office or whether we are going to be more concerned about fixing this country. Because really, we are hemorrhaging so badly that I shudder, as I said, about the future. And I hope that we can very quickly come back to the table, to get our act together. Because the idea that we will bury 70-something citizens and Nigerians are continuing as if nothing has happened. The idea that 20 people, 30 people, we are dying in numbers. And these Nigerians have no names. If 3 people die on the streets of New York, it will be on our network news. Okay, if 5 people die in America, the country will come to a standstill. So how can we be talking about democracy in an environment where human life has become almost next to nothing? So for me, these are the critical issues. Democracy is about improving the quality of lives of ordinary citizens. So far, what Nigerian leaders or politicians are offering is anything but. And for me, I make this point with a sense of urgency. You know, if we do not retreat from the path that we are on now, I do not see a future for my country. It's not something I want to talk about, but I feel so passionate because I've never been as sad and frustrated as I feel today. So really, and on a final note, I just want to make the point. We love this country passionately. It is the only country we have. And the political class must give us a reason to believe that we are citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not members of some tiny ethnic groups that have been put together. The Sardauna did a fantastic job of holding the northern, the North together. He was able to create a consensus. He also was visibly present. Benue State today, for example, in 1961, when that area was still in crisis, the Sardauna went there severally. He created institutions. In just that we are talking about today, in 1961 or thereabout, Bitrus Bott, whom he made the Bongong, was formerly his secretary. So our leaders must understand that we need to create gateways. We need to create platforms and institutions that can enable this country hold together. We are so divided, I do not see how we can progress under this situation.
Hassan Kuka, thank you very much for the many points that you have raised. Just before we bring in Dr. Bulama Gubio again, just perhaps it escaped to your attention, or perhaps in the course of reeling out the various facts and articulating the points. That's to say, that's Bishop Kuka now. You said there were no military governments in Asia. South Korea, for instance, was an exception. All right, so let's go to Beduguri and bring in Bulama Gubio. Bulama Gubio, you've listened to the points that have been raised by the other guests. And you were talking earlier about, say, preferring solutions instead of dwelling on what went wrong. In terms of preferring solutions, what would you like to say in practical terms? The point has also been raised by the other guests with the fact that if you have a leadership that deals with issues of fairness, justice, and equity, then you are right on the road to national unity. Is it that for us as a country and as a people, leadership or leaders have used national unity as a mere platitude?
Well, thank you very much. Fairness, equity, and justice are things that are learned from childhood. We don't like godless leaders. With all due respect to Bishop Kuka, he is a man of God, and he is a leader, and he has an influence on the leaders of this country. If we have godless leaders, all these problems we are talking about comes about because of godlessness. People do not fear God. From childhood, every action you take as an adult, as a politician, as a leader, is based on your own conviction, how you were brought up. Your religious persuasion is very, very important. To say that we do not need religious leaders is to say that Nigeria should go to pieces. People must be religious. They have to have moral rectitude. They have to have moral character. And that is, by the way, how to bring unity in this country. The leadership we had before, at the beginning of Nigeria, was largely based on pseudo-feudal aristocratic leadership. People who were of royal blood, people who were wealthy, were mainly part of the leadership of this country. But they loved the nation. They loved their leaders. They were not greedy. They accommodated everybody. Look at how big the northern Nigeria is. It was under one government in unity, and all northerners were calling themselves Eng Arewa northerners. No ill feelings, no discrimination. But then democracy is a worldwide quest. People are looking for democracy, democracy. Okay, we got democracy. And the leadership was liberalized. The children of the poor, the rural dwellers, everybody came in. and they were accepted. Today, leadership cuts across, or in fact, the aristocrats are no longer in leadership. The leadership is in the hands of the poor. But then how to manage leadership became difficult. We need national orientation, a very serious form of national orientation. For example, we have state laws, we have federal laws. If there are any laws in this country that discriminates, that excludes, all of us should come together to expunge these laws, whether they are local government laws, state laws, or federal laws. If we need to be one nation, one people, as we always claim, we should not have discriminatory laws in our states, in our local governments, particularly in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of accommodation. People are free to move around Nigeria. But when it comes to the most crucial issues in their lives, they face discrimination. And that gives, for example, if a 12-year-old boy who wants to go to a secondary school in a particular state is told that he should go to his state to get admission, you are now bringing out somebody who is very hot inside, and he can be a spoiler. So all our discriminatory laws should be expunged. Our leaders should exchange visits, particularly our royal fathers, our religious leaders, our political leaders. And once elections are over, for heaven's sake, we should stop. If we know that we have lost the election, please let us congratulate whoever has won the election and go home and wait.
All right, thank you very much, Mali Gubio, for your contributions there. We'll get back to you very shortly, but then let's come back to Governor Lalong. Earlier on, when you were speaking, you spoke to the fact that you also had to call some of these, communities in your state, where there were issues, and that brings me to the role of citizens in Nigeria's unity. From your experience, what role do you think citizens have to play in terms of uniting Nigeria?
Well, I think the first thing is like my Lord Bishop said, we need a new reorientation, and that reorientation will be our I must say our loyalty and also our commitment to the nation. But first of all, we must find ways of not talking about ethnicity, not talking about religion, but talking about the nation, So definitely, if we find this kind of commitment, we'll move ahead. Except we do that, we'll always go back far steps backward towards things that are dividing us, rather than things that are uniting us.
All right.
I'm wondering, sorry, Rhoda, because the point has been raised all around with regard to the key attributes that a nation ought to have that would then be factors that would drive national unity. Let's just stay with the governor, then I would like Dr. Akomans to also respond to this. Why would a leader in a political environment have difficulty with being fair, with being just, and ensuring equity?
Well, it's also sometimes the background. He mentioned how political leaders, how we bring out political leaders through elections. But there's also one thing that is not mentioned, the issue of godfatherism. I want to say that sometimes a leader can be good, but you are elected under that kind of platform. It's completely subsumed by direction somewhere. And also, in some cases, by the influence of your ethnicity, or by the influence of your religious background. But it is very, very difficult to get leaders who are selfless these days, because people look at it from a selfish kind of view. I am going there because I also want to amass wealth like Mr. A, Mr. B. When Mr. B was there, he empowered his community. So sometimes you come, this issue of zoning here and there, they will say, yes, the opportunity is coming from my side. This man had an opportunity, he did for his people. It's also my opportunity to do for my people. You are not serving the nation. You are not patriotic to the nation. But if you believe that you are patriotic to the nation, and by chance you become a leader, you are elected, the first thing to do, like I said, is this tenet that is provided by the Constitution. One, the protection of lives and properties to ensure peace, and the second one is the welfare of citizens. It didn't say welfare of your ethnic citizen or welfare of your religious group, but welfare of the citizens of Nigeria. If that is your guiding principle, definitely, whatever you are doing, you will do it with fairness, you will do it with justice, and you will do it with equity.
Dr. Akumas, why is it that these constitutional precepts are being held more in the breach? Therefore, why is it difficult for a leader to be fair, to be just, and to ensure equity?
It's simple. I did say that what is happening these days is that people just want that temporary and immediate popularity, you know, just flowing with the tide, not looking at what will be better. I also talked about the background and vision. I want you, and I really want us to take time. Very soon campaigns will start. You will see people who will be presenting issues, talking about something, people that have vision, looking at something to achieve, something that could be said long after they've gone, that they did or that they put in place. And then you will see those that will just be abusing people, insulting people, and say things, and you discover that a lot of people tend to flow that way because, I don't know, for whatever reason. I was in another platform where we were discussing, and there were issues of some leaders who are doing exactly what His Excellency said. For me, my family, and my immediate people. And somebody was saying he's not doing. I said, did they promise you anything? Go and look at the clips during the campaign. He never promised you anything. He will come and say, these people are that and that. I talked about perception. It is time for us to think about ourselves as a nation. What is that we want to achieve? Where do we want to go to? We used to have plans, short, medium, long term. Are we following those plans? Can people work within the framework of the plan so that we know when something is being done that this person is working towards that? When people come with visions on how to create wealth, ensure that people are employed, ensure that all these security challenges are, taken care of through some sustainable signposts and actions that will take us to somewhere. Then, if anybody comes, you can, key in somewhere and work from there. We will all know that we are working towards this common goal. We have abandoned all that, even within states. But there are some states in this country that I know when some people came in, like Akwa Ibom. The Akwa Ibom, when he came on board, called the people together. They had a vision. They had their plans. And when Obama came, he called them again. Let's review what was done. And they have continued to work on that. There are other states too that I can talk about, like Lagos, and today Anambra, Enugu has killed in Iboyitski, and the number of states across. He has told us what he has done in and what he's doing in Plateau. So anybody coming, we know that there is this roadmap. There is this approach. Is it working well enough for us to achieve that vision? If not, how can we adjust that? There are many people. You don't have to know everything. This country is blessed. Each state is blessed with it. We have, expertise to draw from across. And then, but we must have a clear understanding of what we want to achieve, where we want to go. And then the citizens should know that this is where we are going to. And when somebody is not driving them towards that, but individual interest will always be there. But there must be a system that will force that individual interest to be, you know, subsumed into the real interest of the people.
All right, Dr. Akomas, thank you very, very much. Let's bring in Bishop. But before we bring in Bishop, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll be speaking to other areas on these issues. We'll be back in a moment.
And flu can spread through the contact of hands. And in such situations, I can't risk falling ill. So I recommend Dettol, as it protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why I want to be Dettol sure. Dettol P100.
NTATV College Jos, an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, is organizing a one-month short course on online news reporting. The course is scheduled for 5th February to 16th March 2018 at the NTATV College premises, Rayfield, Jos. The cost for workshop is 100,000 naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. This course will be targeting professional journalists and those wishing to pursue courses in this field. The course will be teaching participants the act of using mobile phone cameras and digital cameras to generate reports and how these news stories, photos and videos can be produced or even published straight from the field, making the news production process faster and more efficient. Take advantage of this opportunity. NTATV College, training you to be the best you want to be. For inquiries, contact the academic office on 0806 908 9807 0816 956 1843.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back. Now, just for us to take reactions from our viewers who have sent in their tweets. Some of the tweets are already scrolling on the screen. But let's take these ones now. This one is from Muda Tiab. It says, most of the political leaders missed the road. How do you expect to have unity? 85 to 90% of political leaders should not be there at all. Right man, right action, wrong man, wrongdoing.
All right, the next one is from Abdul Majid Lawan, and he tweeted, he said, Plateau State used to be a base for marketing ethnic and religious fracas. Governor Lalong has changed the face, and today Plateau is gradually returning to its past glory of home of peace.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, Nigeria's unity is bleeding seriously. and needs urgent healing. Our political leaders must be in the forefront in efforts to heal the Nigerian nation. Until our leaders stop putting their selfish interests first, achieving national unity will be a Herculean task.
Akolo C. Katsibi, he tweets, he said, what a good topic you chose to dissect this morning. Bravo. No doubt national unity is indispensable if any meaningful development must be recorded. The dream of our founding fathers for an indivisible nation has suffered multiple injuries. We must reignite it.
Andrew Ogboro tweets, the level of poverty amongst the followership is so much that they actually go to election venues looking for who will pay the most money.
And this last one is from Kabir Ibrahim. Kabir Ibrahim tweets, he says, Bishop Kuka is really saying what is expected of a nation. Many things have been missed in Nigeria's politics. Those are the tweets that we have now. Continue to send in your tweets via our Twitter handle at NTAGMN.
Let's return to Bishop Kuka in Sokoto. Bishop Kuka, in the course of his opening statements, the governor of Plateau State did indicate that he dusted up a number of recommendations and policy papers on the Plateau crisis. And we all recall that at some point in the Fourth Republic, Plateau State was under emergency rule. We had an administrator, that's Major General Chris Ali. Bishop Kuka, you were the secretary of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court decision made the implementation of that report impossible. You did publish a book on that eventually. Are there matters we can immediately recall from the recommendations of that commission that might help in our process, in our search for real national unity and healing in the wake of the so much bloodletting that we are seeing now?
Well, thank you very much. And let me commend Governor Lalong, because again, he's lucky because he comes with the background of a lawyer, which also talks to the issues of background and why those things matter. What are you bringing to the table? Also, he comes with the traction of having been speaker and understanding the nature of the environment. And that is why he kept aside all these reports and decided to follow his instincts. And a politician must have a fantastic instinct. Now, in my, first of all, point of correction, I don't know why, but for many years now, Nigerians continue to tell me that I wasn't the secretary of the Political Reform Conference. Our secretary was Alhaji Numan Dambata. I think maybe the reason why people thought I was secretary was because I was the only member that had a computer, a laptop, maybe, but I really was not the secretary. My book, Witness to Justice, actually has quite a lot of things. And I'm not going to market my book. But just to say that actually it ought to be basic reading. The members of I managed to get the speaker then and my governor in Sokoto, Alhaji Tambuwal, to buy a good number of copies for all the members of the National Assembly. I got Senator David Mark to do the same. I don't know whether many of them have gone past the first or second pages. But let me fast forward. One of the things I spoke to at that in my book was that, look, politics is about symbolism. Reconciliation is also about symbolism. There are certain symbolic things, and they don't cost anything at all. Now, Mandela was probably not the best dancer, but the sight of Mandela dancing at a rally sent out signals. South Africa was able to win the cup, the Africa Cup of Nations. Since then, it had never won, that cup again. But a lot of those things served as a means of bringing the people of South Africa together. And here again, Governor Lalong knows my mind and my excitement, when Plateau United won the cup last year. Again, that for me was a metaphor for saying that Plateau State is now open for business. And I think the challenge therefore is to how do you direct traffic so that Plateau State can again come back to what it used to be. And you can say the same of a lot of other countries. So the point really that I'm making is that, if you see, let's say, the presidency of George Bush after September 11, now, you notice that one of the things that defined the presidency of George Bush, which didn't start so well, was his going to ground zero and climbing a truck and standing beside a truck driver, a firefighter, and holding a microphone and speaking to Americans. It became an iconic photograph. The question is, where is a leader when a country is in crisis? The idea of a governor or a president holding a child dripping with blood will send out all kinds of signals to ordinary people. The processes of engaging citizens is science. And this is where, again, Dr. Akomas makes the point about intellectuals and so on. The government of Nigeria has remained very hostile to new ideas and fresh ideas. And when you come from a background in which university lecturers, university professors, they quarrel with ASU, that you have governments that have refused to take the academia so seriously that academicians are spending their energy and time fighting for salaries instead of helping to design clear roadmaps as to how the issues of this country can be resolved. Most of the debate about Boko Haram is also in the frontier of psychology. So really the point I'm making is that the issues around reconciliation are not as complicated. We made all kinds of suggestions in our report. And it was a pity that the government resorted to legalism. From my little work in Ogoni land, I realized, and I thank President Obasanjo for taking that decision. Now, from my work in Ogoni land, it became very clear to me, our people don't ask for so much. And in the course of my work, one of the things I got President Obasanjo to do was, look, can you please come to Ogoni land? And the president flew to Ogoni land. He didn't give Ogoni people money. As you know, if you're Obasanjo's friend, don't expect to get money from him. So he's not somebody who gives out money, even as president. But he didn't give Ogoni people money. But a convergence of him coming to Ogoni land, not once, but twice, and then, Governor Odili's energy and commitment to the people. Again, it was not about how much you did for people, but when people physically, symbolically saw their president in their midst, a lot of that fast-forwarded the process of reconciliation. And believe me, I can tell you that after I left Ogoni land, had this government made a little bit of more effort, we would have closed the anxiety and frustration around Ogoni land. In the same way that at the national level, national unity is easier for us to find than we can imagine. That is why Nigerians keep saying, oh, whenever we are playing, the Super Eagles are playing, we are all united. Let me give you an anecdote, which was told to me by President Obasanjo himself. I'll say it very quickly. He said one day the Super Eagles were playing, and all of them were at the villa watching the match. And when the Super Eagles, when the goals don't come, the members of the supporters club start one of these Jesus songs. And they started singing one of these Jesus songs. And somehow the Super Eagles scored. And everybody broke into, the usual excitement. And his chief of staff, the great General Mohammed, started laughing. He said, he turned to him and said, look, the goal has been scored in the name of Jesus. Why are you dancing? And, his chief of staff, General Mohammed, said to him, well, a goal has been scored, so we are all Christians. Now, the point I'm making is, at the level of symbolism, government has to identify what are the little things that you can do to make people excited. It's not about the vision. It's not about promising to fight corruption. And this is why I said it at the beginning, that it is not so much about wanting to fight corruption. Give us an idea of where we are going to, where we are headed for, how we can achieve a sense of national cohesion. When I made this point, the sky has nearly collapsed on my head, on the ground that I wasn't supporting this government. Well, 2.5 years later, many of my friends have come back to me to say, oh, Bishop, what did you see that we didn't see? I didn't see anything. But I just knew that we could not move anywhere if we didn't achieve national cohesion. And the point finally is that drama, theater, art, these are the vital ingredients for creating national unity. Does it make sense to you, for example, that this country has no single space that that citizens can rally around? We don't have an Eiffel Tower. We don't, we don't have a Trafalgar Square. We don't have a Lincoln Memorial space. We don't have any space where citizens can gather, spaces that evoke passion and emotions of citizens. We don't have any of such spaces in Nigeria. And these are the spaces that drive democracy and citizenship. And creating common citizenship is an art. An artist, and this is why I'm saying we ought to deploy all these resources and not see national unity as something that governors, presidents, legislators, and so on and so forth can give to us generously. They don't love this country more than the rest of us. All of us love this country. The challenge.
All right, sorry, Bishop Kuka, thank you very much. Just my colleague and I were just ruminating over some of the points you talked about, not having national space or national symbols. Perhaps we can grow from what Governor Rocha Sokorocha is doing in Imo with the statutes that are coming up in that environment. Bishop Kuka, always thanks a lot. But very quickly, let's go over to Bulama, Dr. Bulama Gubio in Maiduguri. Dr. Gubio, again, a number of points on the table. What is it that we can begin to do in terms of getting our act together and truly uniting our people? Take this point along. Yes, the example has been cited. You go to the marketplace, Nigerians are all united. Might it help if, for instance, governors were to focus, again, much more on growing the economy so that at a higher level, people get more engaged and therefore can trade better as they do at the market square now? Briefly.
Well, thank you very much. First, we should organize our people, reach out to them, mobilize them, create job opportunities for them, opportunities for the youth, for the children, for the widows, for the orphans. And then when we mobilize our own people, we start to reach out to fellow states, compare notes. If there are good examples like the one in Plateau, the other states can copy. Then we gradually move into the center and make sure that we constantly reach out to our people and mobilize them to unite. Unity is the only thing we can cultivate to become a great nation. This unity can always bring us disaster. Today Nigeria is disaster because we are not united, and none of us is happy about it. Nobody is enjoying, everybody is apprehensive. So we need to get away from all norms of disunity and embrace peace, embrace one another.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bulama Mali Gubio. Let's get the final words from Governor Lalong. What is the way forward? What do you think the political elites could be doing?
I think, first of all, political elites should remain selfless, not selfish. And two, we must be patriotic to this nation, always be talking about the way forward to improving the nation, not improving ourselves or improving our tribes or improving our religion. And finally, I am of the opinion that as we move forward, we should be moving towards focusing on citizenship in Nigeria rather than indigenship.
All right, that's the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Simon Bako Lalong. Of course, at some point he was Speaker of the House of Assembly. Thank you very much for your contribution, and we do hope that some of the things you've said here, you will take it back to your colleagues at the Governors Forum, yes, and they will be more concerned about issues pertaining to national unity rather than excess crude account. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. But we also would like to appreciate Dr. Chris Akumas, former Deputy Governor of Abia State. We appreciate your being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
And from Maiduguri, thanks to Dr. Bulama Gubio, Secretary, Borno Elders Forum. Thank you very much for being with us. And then, of course, our sympathy is over what happened last night or the night before with the renewed suicide bombings. All right, and then from Sokoto, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you. All right, now that does it for our discussion segment. Let's go quickly to our sports desk.